Bringing guns to the knife fight.
Hey guys, which is an interesting video on Wild Rift. So we're back with a Jinx updated complete guide. And now of course, as promised, we're gonna have to be doing a whole lot of updated complete guides. And now I normally make updated complete guides when there are huge item or rune changes, something like that, because obviously you know, the builds will change for a lot of champions, and that is definitely the case here. We're in a huge Stormraizer meta in the ADC role, so there is going to be huge changes to a ton of ADCs, even some ADCs like Kaisa, which I thought wasn't going to build Stormraizer, but turns out that she can build Stormraizer with a crit kind of build, so we will be covering that in a future video. But today, for the first updated complete guide, we're going to take a look at Jinx. Now, out of all the champions that had updated builds and all that, the two I was most excited about was Jinx and Jhin. Now, the reason is that the both of them haven't really been in the meta for quite some time, especially Jhin. Like Jinx, despite that most people think she's pretty weak, I honestly thought in the previous meta before the Stormraizer got buffed, I did think that she was okay, like average. I didn't think she was bad, and I did actually play her not quite a bit, but a couple of matches here and there in ranked. But now that we have the Stormraizer buff, Jinx is really, really good. So, as usual for updated complete guides, I will be putting the link to the original complete guide where you can take a look at her skills and abilities, so we don't have to waste time on that. Instead, we're just going to jump straight into the build and the runes and the spells. So, we're going to head over to the Jinx build. There we go. Alright, so here is the Jinx build. Of course, it's not going to be Clarity, something more like an Exhaust, but we'll get into that later. So here is pretty much the Jinx build. Now, pretty much on almost every ADC who can build Stormraizer, you always want to rush Stormraizer as a first item, because it basically gives you everything you want as an ADC. It gives you attack damage, it gives you crit rate, and it gives you attack speed. Now, of course, it doesn't give as much attack speed as a attack speed crit item. It doesn't give as much AD as like a Infinity Edge, but it gives you the best of both worlds. It gives you a little bit of attack speed, it gives you quite a decent amount of attack damage after the buff, and it gives you, of course, the 25% crit. So aside from that, you also have the Energized passive, which of course gives you a slow as well as bonus magic damage when you proc the Energize stacks. So you want to rush Stormraizer as a first item. Then afterwards, you want to go for the Infinity Edge, of course, to give you increased crit damage, the crit rate, and the AD. And then you go for an Energized item. Now, I will say that the first variation you can make is you can actually go for it in this order instead. To go for the Energized item first, and then go for the Infinity Edge. That is the first kind of variation you can go for. But I like going for an Infinity Edge first, just for the more attack damage and crit damage. Next, you go for an Energized item, which in my case, I like the Rapid Fire Cannon, particularly on Jinx, because when in rocket form, combined with the Rapid Fire Cannon, you can get a very long range auto attack. So in the neutral game, like, you know, there's a lot of those times where both teams are sort of just walking around the Dragon or Baron area, but no one wants to engage, or no one wants to start the objective. With the Rapid Fire Cannon and your Rocket Launcher, you can actually start poking them for a decent amount of damage on that one shot, and then you get your Rapid Fire Cannon up again, you poke them again, that kind of thing. Then, of course, you go for the Mortal Reminder for the armor penetration, as well as the Grievous Wounds. Now, the Seralda's Grudge doesn't really work very well on Jinx, obviously, because you don't want to be using your ultimate for the slow. Your Q doesn't give, is basically just changing your basic attacks. Your W already has a slow, and your E is a root, so nothing's going to happen when they're slow. So you don't build Seralda's Grudge on Jinx at all. And for the last item, I like to go for the the Guardian Angel, of course, for the revive in case you get instantly bursted. Of course, Jinx doesn't actually have any mobility, so that is going to be a huge issue, so I like to go for Guardian Angel. Now, for the Energized item slot of the Rapid Fire Cannon, you can actually go for something else, which is the Static Shift. Now, this is a very greedy build, which gives you a whole lot more damage, but a lot less safety, because Rapid Fire Cannon gives you additional range, which basically leads to more safety, so I always prefer Rapid Fire Cannon. But the next variation you can go for is, instead of going for Guardian Angel, you can actually go for a 100% crit build with all three Energized items, as well as the Infinity Edge. So of course, as I mentioned just now, you can also, if you go for this kind of build, you can also go for something like this kind of order, like you go for Stormraizer, Static Shift, then Rapid Fire Cannon, and then Maul Reminder, and off with an Infinity Edge. So of course, the build has a couple of variations, and the build path also has a couple of variations. By and large, this is my favorite one. And actually there is yet another one. So as you guys notice, this is a very single target Jinx build that doesn't include Rune and Hurricane, which used to be a core item for Jinx. So another variation of the Jinx build is something like this. Or of course you can switch up the order, something like this, you know. The order of the items are very fluid. So another variation is building the Rune and Hurricane. Now personally, I would go for this build, and when my GA is down, I would sell my GA and buy myself a Runan's Hurricane, so I at least have some additional AoE damage in addition to my rockets. That will be my personal favorite build. So now that we've covered the build, now we can get into the runes. Now for the runes, obviously we want to go for Conqueror, because Conqueror is basically the only viable rune on Jinx. I guess you could go for Fleet Footwork, but that really isn't that good. So Conqueror, of course, for the additional AD when you stacked it up. Then we go for Hunter Vampirism for lifesteal. Now, of course, in this build, you don't actually have any lifesteal at all, because you don't go for Blade of the Rune King or Bloodthirster, so you need the Hunter Vampirism for the lifesteal. Speaking of lifesteal, I forgot to actually go over the boots and the boot enchant. So, in this build, generally, the boots you go for is going to be the Gluttonous Greaves. Now, because on a lot of ADCs previously, you used to go for builds that included Bloodthirster or Blade of the Rune King, but now most builds are full crit builds, so a lot of ADCs will now be building Gluttonous Greaves instead of building one either Merc Threads or Plated Steel Caps. So we go for the Gluttonous Greaves, and for the enchantment, generally we want to go for the Proto Belt or the Stasis. So Stasis, obviously, if you're against like a one-shot assassin, kind of like a Rengar or a Kha'Zix that you need to Stasis. But otherwise, going for Proto Belt is really useful, because getting yourself an additional dash is always going to be very helpful to both run away and to chase down people. So aside from that, your only other option is going to be QSS if you're into a very heavy CC team and you need to cleanse yourself of the CC. Now back to the runes. On the second slot, really it is kind of a personal preference kind of thing. Honestly, obviously we have changes to conditioning and second wind, but you know, ADCs generally don't really take that. So it's sort of a choice between Hunter Titan, Bone Plating, as well as Adaptive Carapace. Adaptive Carapace is a lot better for your lane matchup. Hunter Titan is better for like late game against CC, of course, and Bone Plating is good for both in lane as well as late game against burst damage. So it kind of really depends on what you need. Now for the last slot, actually you basically have only two options: is Sweet Tooth or Mana Flow Ban. Now I'm pretty low on Sweet Tooth at the moment, because I really feel that the nerf has basically made me realize that Sweet Tooth isn't as strong as I thought it was. Like the heal you get on your mana and your health even without the Sweet Tooth is pretty decent as well. And the goal, I can't really say the goal is negligible, because it's about a couple minions worth of gold, but Sweet Tooth really isn't taken for the goal. It's taken more for the sustain. So on Jinx, you can either take Mana Flow Ban to, of course, have more mana to cast more of your rocket auto attacks, or you can go for Sweet Tooth itself to, of course, get that gold and that extra health and mana sustain in the lane. Now, Hunter Genius doesn't really work that well on Jinx, because Jinx is an auto attack kind of champion. Like, she doesn't really rely on her W or her E too much, unlike something like maybe a Lucian or a Kai'Sa that maybe would want to take Hunter Genius more. So pretty much it's a choice between Mana Flow Ban as well as Sweet Tooth, depending on whether you want Sweet Tooth or not. If you don't want Sweet Tooth, just go for a Mana Flow Ban instead. And now for the spells, ADCs don't take heal anymore, of course, ever since it got buffed for the support role, of course, meaning that it heals your allies more than it heals you. So generally on ADCs, you're either going to take Barrier or Exhaust. So Exhaust is generally a better option to have at least one exhaust on your team to exhaust, like, let's say, the enemy Irelia or Rengar or Katarina or whoever is really doing so much damage and destroying your team. But if you don't need the exhaust and you want to go for Barrier instead, that is always an option. But personally, I always go for exhaust, unless maybe we have at least one other exhaust in my team. Then I would kind of consider taking the Barrier itself. So now with all that out of the way, we can actually move straight on down to the gameplay. Alrighty, so here we have the gameplay, but before we get into that, as usual, if you guys like what you guys are seeing, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you guys have any questions, you can put it in the comments below, and I will, of course, be addressing them. So, in this match, obviously, you know, it goes without saying that we're playing Jinx, and we're up against a Tristana and Braum in lane. Now, Tristana is another champion who does very well with Stormraizer, and I will be making a video on Tristana in a little bit, so you guys can look forward to that. But yeah, so basically one of, I wouldn't say it's a prerequisite, but I would say that something you should really want to do when you're playing Jinx is play with an Enchanter support. Now here, don't know if you guys noticed, but Braum was actually spotted at the topside river, that's why me and Janna are playing extremely aggressive, trying to get down any poke we can onto Tristana. Now, Tristana and Braum actually is likely a winning matchup. It is a winning matchup against me and Janna, because if Tristana can jump in and get her bomb on me, you know, that I can't really out-trade that, and the only thing I really have advantage of is range, so I can only really poke her to try to do anything about it in lane. Now, the reason why this is such a huge thing that Braum wasn't around is because Braum isn't around to protect her, and he isn't around to put any pressure on us, which basically means I can free fire on her with my rockets. Now, as you guys can see, I only have like less than a quarter of my mana left, just because of how much rockets I've been spamming right into Tristana's face, and she has had no choice but to back. So now here, we get a lot of free farm. We also deny her quite a bit of farm just because we're zoning her off the minions. So here both me and my support hit level 3, and we're gonna back, get a reset, whereas Tristana and Braum still stuck at level 2. So yeah, we're off to a pretty good start, but not really based on our actions, but more based on the fact that Braum kind of left his Tristana high and dry. Now, of course, we were able to punish that by, of course, going aggressive and just using our rockets to attack the Tristana. So, of course, really important to punish the enemies when they make mistakes. So now, the reason why it's really good to play Jinx with an Enchanter support is she really has no mobility, and she really is very squishy. So you really need something like that. As you guys can see, Tristana put her bomb on me, so Janna tornadoes the Tristana to kind of peel her off me. So you really need like a support, Enchanter support like a Nami, a Lulu, or a Janna to sort of like peel for you and just try to help you out, especially in the lane in general. And even in the late game, even if you are, you know, in late game and you are fed, you still like need a Enchanter support to really like just support you in general. So here, very nice tornado by Janna into the traps by me, and we are able to get the kill onto the Tristana. Braum flashes away 1 HP, and I get the snipe onto the Braum. And now Jarvan comes in and finds himself in a 1v2 and thinks the better of it, which is a wise decision by him, and he gets out of there. So here we pick up another wave, and of course deny more minions to the Tristana. And since, you know, there is time, we can try to, you know, pick up some damage onto the tower if possible. My traps end up aggroing the Tristana, so I'm gonna have to back off a little bit, and now we can get off a nice reset. So very nice double kill by us in lane in the 2v2. Of course, that was a result of all the pressure we have, but just by poking the Tristana, and very nice tornado into traps combo by us. So now I have my Stormraizer already, and that is before the 4-minute mark, which is where the Herald and Dragon is going to be spawning. So really nice early start for us. Now obviously, when you're a Jinx or any kind of late game champion and you start getting a couple of kills in the early game, you're really gonna get that snowball rolling, and you're gonna increase your chances of you know, carrying the game in the late game by a whole lot. So Braum has no shield anymore. We're gonna continue on in the same strategy. As you guys can see, I'm switching to rockets to poke them, switching back to machine gun to CS, then switching back to rockets to poke them again. Now as you guys can see, two of us are still at full health, but I managed to chunk 1/3 of both Tristana and the Braum's health at this point in time. Braum is chunked down to half now, and we're really putting in the hurt onto them here. Still going on with the chunking with my rockets, especially now with the Stormraizer, going to really help us out a lot. So Janna takes tower aggro onto Tristana, and that allows me to take the kill onto Tristana. I of course get my reset. Janna still tanking the tower, and I do get the kill onto the Braum as well. Janna manages to flash away from the Jarvan, and I tank 2 tower shots, and we both managed to get out alive. So another 2v2 kill by us in the bot lane, and Jarvan shows up late to the party for the second time after he sees his bot lane crumble. So here, 4-0, a really nice start to the game. Couldn't really ask for anything better. We go for the BF sword. Actually, we don't go for the BF sword. We go for the Gluttonous Greaves and a long sword, because we really need those boots. Now, this leads us to a scenario where we did get a couple of kills, but we lose tempo on the map because we have to reset after those kills. So the enemy team off the respawn is able to actually pick up the dragon, and we do actually see this in some of the videos that we have. Like sometimes we're on the end that loses the dragon, sometimes we're on the end that gets the dragon, that sometimes we get killed, but because the enemy team has to reset after that kill to get back their health and mana, we do actually manage to pick up the dragon. So on the flip side, my team actually manages to trade onto the top side, and we do actually manage to pick up the Rift Herald. So overall, it's a very good trade for my team, because Mountain Dragon is the least important dragon in any scenario, unless of course it is the Elder Mountain Dragon, then that's a different story altogether. But as a basic dragon, it really isn't that important. Now of course I'm 4-0 now, so I'm 1v1ing the Tristana. Braum shows up, but I get excited and I run myself out of there. So a really important point there is how I used my exhaust. I didn't pop my exhaust straight away because Tristana's main damage is from her E explosion and her ult as well. So I didn't exhaust her at the start when she just put her E onto me, because I wouldn't really exhaust too much of her damage in that way. But if I exhaust her a bit later on when her E is about to pop, that allows me to mitigate more of her damage. Now this of course comes from the knowledge of how Tristana's damage works. Obviously as an ADC player, I would obviously know how Tristana works. Now here, Jarvan and Braum getting a little bit aggressive, a little bit frisky with the Janna, and Tristana shows up to the party, so we can't really do too much else. Of course, we are fed 5-0, but we still can't just simply run straight at people and just attack them for no reason. So here, I'm trying my best to just do as much damage as I can with my rockets to anybody who is in my range. It doesn't matter if it's the Braum or the Tristana. If the Braum wants to take free poke, we're going to give him that free damage onto him. Now our jungle has not actually shown up bot lane this entire match, whereas Jarvan showed up twice, so we're doing really well to absorb pressure from our team. And here we are going for the traps combo again. We actually interrupt Tristana's jump, and we actually do manage to get we don't actually manage to get the kill onto the Tristana, but Braum is trying to channel recall under the tower, which of course is not the best idea. Janna tanks some tower shots for the chase. I get excited off the tower kill, and I'm rocketing Braum, who actually manages to stand behind me on Tristana, which transports my rockets to the 1 HP Tristana, and actually he kills her. So really unfortunate situation for the Tristana there. Braum basically sabotaged her chances of living right there, and Renekton comes in on a 1v3 and thinks the better of it, so he's not going to pursue us any further. So at this point in time, 6-0. I wouldn't say the game is pretty much over at this point, but really I'm so fed that as long as my team can protect me, we pretty much win the game. Now my team has a solid front line with Set and Amumu, and I also have a Janna to peel for me, so in this particular team comp I should be golden in terms of staying alive. Now of course, unless I do get dived by the enemy team, which the main threat of that is of course the Jarvan flag and drag combo into his ultimate, which will spell quite a bit of trouble for me. So obviously I don't want to find myself in that scenario if I can help it. But yeah, so we already picked up the bot lane tower, so obviously the most logical move is, as usual, to rotate straight onto mid. Nice tornado by Janna, and I managed to catch him with the zap as well. So here we're going to pick up the mid lane tower, and yeah, so basically since I am so strong at this point in time, Stormraizer completed, i.e. going to be completed off this back, I kind of want to fight at any possible opportunity. Of course not like in a 1v4 or something like that, but obviously so long as it is an even numbered fight, or even maybe a 2v3, I do want to take the fight because I am really strong at the moment. I pick up my protobot as well for safety purposes, because there's no one who can instantly burst me down on that team. Brand isn't really doing all that well. He can't just one-shot me, so I think the protobot for the mobility is a lot more useful. Now on the flip side, Zhonya's for the German ultimate would be pretty helpful as well, but I do decide to go for the protobot. Now Renekton tries to dive onto the backline, tries to take me out. I hit the exhaust button onto him, and Janna does manage to push him away and peel him off me. This really highlights the importance of having an enchanter support to peel for you, and here we managed to finish off the kill on the Renekton as well as the Tristana, and now I am godlike. So here I'm just going to clear out the wave, and pretty much the entire, actually not pretty much, literally the entire enemy team dies. So here Zed is pushing down the mid lane. In the meantime, me and Janna, we're going to be pushing down the bot lane and trying to see if we can pick up this tower. So here at minimum we're going to get a plate, so we get that plate, we get that tower as well. Jarvan comes in, where it's a 1v2 at the moment, so we can't fight him. Brand shows up to the party, and we're just gonna back off because no reason to overextend. The reason why we don't take that fight, even though it was a 2v2, is because it's very close to the enemy team's base, who are all respawning, so it could easily become from a 2v2 to a 2v4 at any point in time. So we don't want that to happen. So now, same deal. Enemy team picks up the dragon, and we pick up the herald. So we had both heralds of the game while they had both dragons. So we're just trading objectives, no big deal here. So obviously I am 7-0 and 3, so I'm gonna be taking the red buff, and not really useful for Amumu either way. So we're gonna take that red buff, and we're gonna go on our merry way. So here, nothing too much is going on. It's pretty neutral at the moment. We're just trying to push down the mid lane, or just basically get off a push in general. And here, same deal. I'm gonna hit whoever I can with my rockets, and I'm gonna, of course, do damage to the tower. Now my red buff actually managed just to draw tower aggro on me, which is a bit unfortunate. I get the reset off the tower take, but a huge amount of burst by Tristana. We could actually turn there for the fight, but unfortunately, Tristana's out didn't manage to disengage for their team, so good on them, I guess you could say. So here we're gonna ward to make sure nothing is happening. A huge distraction in the top lane. Has drawn 3 members of the enemy team to the top, so we're gonna do as much damage as we can to the inhibitor. But Tristana manages to clear the wave with the help of her E. So here we're gonna get collapsed upon by Jarvan and Braum. So we're gonna, of course, back off so that we don't find ourselves in between 4 members of the enemy team, and we're just gonna clear the wave, and that's gonna pretty much be it. So there's a lot of farm in the bot lane, so we're gonna just rotate over to the bot lane and pick up the bot lane farm while the enemy team is still busy clearing top and mid. So here, just gonna pick up the farm and then get a reset, because at this point in time we've been out on the map for some time, and we've picked up quite a bit of gold, which we can of course use to get some items.
I really need a new gun.
Alright, so here rapid fire cannon has been completed, so we got our 3 core items completed, and we're really strong at this point in time. We haven't even died once as well, so obviously we don't want to give shutdown to anybody on the enemy team, so we of course want to avoid dying as much as we can. So we're heading back to the bot lane, where the wave has just been destroyed by my tower. So here I'm just going to push out the bot lane. Nothing too much else is happening on the map. It looks like 3 members of the enemy team are in the mid lane, possibly trying to collapse onto Zed. 2 other members of my team are pushing in the top lane. We're just going to keep on pushing because it looks like the enemy team is responding to top. So here is just the macro game. They're all rotating to top to stop the push at top, but instead we're going to go for the bot lane. Now 2 members, the Brand and the Renekton, does actually manage to come in, disengage by the Janna with the Janna ultimate, and I do manage to get the kill onto the Brand, get the reset, and just firing off my rockets at whoever I can. Of course, Tristana tries to jump in. She puts the bomb onto the minions instead of me, so that really shows you why Tristana is hard to play. You have to put your bomb onto the correct person. So she auto-targeted, and here I'm just auto-taking down the Jarvan. He can escape because of the Stormraizer's slow. So here I easily managed to get the kill onto the Jarvan, and here pretty much that will be game. It's a clean ace with a wave as well. So here we're just going to finish off the game. Our minion wave does run out, so Zed tanks the tower shot. I'm going to be tanking a couple of tower shots, but it doesn't really matter because we win the game off of that. So you really can see how Jinx is super duper strong with the Stormraizer build. So as usual, I'm going to leave you guys with the stats. So thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.